Right, everybody see the picture? Yeah, everybody got the screen? I hope so. Yeah, thanks, thanks, Dan. Okay, well, good evening. I'm amazed you haven't got better things to do. Here we go. So I'm going to try and talk through the various methods of converting a picture to monochrome, okay, and highlight the good points and the bad points as I understand them. If you want to ask questions, feel free to jump in. I think the easiest way is to press your space bar for the period that you're speaking and then let go and it'll mute you again. This is being recorded, so be careful with the unmuting bit, if you know what I mean. Okay, right. I'm no expert. Let me make that absolutely clear. But I know what works for me, and I'm happy to share that with you. If you ask any technical questions, I may or may not know the answer, but I'll do my best. If I move along too quickly, just shout up. And if you want me to go over something, again, just shout up. I will be using Photoshop because it's what I use, but what I'm going to talk about should be transferable to all types of conversion programs. I normally work on two screens, and of course tonight, so that you can see it, I only have one, so it might be a bit bunched on the screen. Oh, I suppose I'm going to say, yeah, okay. And I will be using a few shortcuts, so hopefully you know them. If you don't, just ask and I'll highlight what they are. But most of the stuff is fairly straightforward if you're used to Lightroom or Photoshop. Right, there are lots of ways to make a black and white image from a digital file. Some are better than others, depending on what you're trying to achieve. I will try and talk through the most common methods, but with time constraints, I won't be able to go into detail about each one. But I will try and get into a little bit of detail on the ones I consider to be the most useful. A profiled monitor is just as important with monochrome as it is with colour. So I hope all of you have got profile monitors. That's the first thing I'd like to say. The second thing is a black and white picture starts with colour. The world is in colour, and that's what you capture on your sensor or film, is colour. In the film days, people would choose their film and processing that converted the colours into the shades of grey that they desired. It's much easier with digital because we can manipulate the shades of grey as easily and as often as we want to. Before you start working on an image, and I think this goes for colour as well as monochrome, it's a big help if you can visualise how you want the final image to look. If you know where you're trying to get to, it's easier to work out the process. I usually refer to it, if you know where you're trying to get to, it's easier to draw the map. But if you have no idea what you want the final image to look like, then you're sort of staggering about a bit in the dark, and then with a bit of luck, you might end up with something you like. So I found this quote from, I'm never really sure how to pronounce his name, Vincent Versace? I'm not sure. Anyway, it's less important to have as many greys in the image as have the right greys. I think it's important that you keep that in mind when you're working on your images. If you're really interested in monochrome conversion, Vincent writes some fabulous books. They're not cheap, but if you look around on eBay, you might find a second-hand version somewhere, or on Amazon. But he's very good and teaches well. So, right, what are the most common? Sorry, I've got to search around for all my slides here. Conversion tools. These, I believe, are the most common methods of converting to monochrome. Okay, and I'll go through each one and talk about what I like about them, what I don't like about them. So, grayscale. Let me find a picture to work on. There we go. Nice easy picture to work on. Grayscale. Restaurant. Bugger off. So, all goes well in practice, doesn't it? As soon as you try to do something. And the first thing you get is this warning sign telling you it's going to throw away information. And it throws away a lot of information. When you convert using Grayscale, it uses only 30% of the red channel, 60% of the green channel, and 10% of the blue channel. Lost my mouse. So effectively, you've thrown away 2/3 of the information that you captured on your file. I don't recommend that. Okay, I have not found any use for Grayscale in processing of an image. I'm sure there are lots of uses for it, but not for what we're trying to do. So when you see that sign, you know something's going on. But if I tell you it's thrown away 2/3 of the information you captured to do a Grayscale, you sort of should be getting the picture. Get my color image back. The next one I think was desaturate. I forgot where that one is. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll do it on a layer. Same thing. On an adjustment layer. I'm going to have to move things around because I've got things in the way. There we go. Desaturate. Nice and easy. Swing it over to the left. If you desaturate the image in Photoshop, all the color information is lost. What you're left with is luminance, the light to dark aspect of the image. So what is not present is the relationship between the red, green and blue channels. So again, you're losing a lot of information and you're losing the relationship between the channels. Not a great method for making a black and white image, but it does have its uses. I use it on color images all the time. This is straightforward color picture, but the background and the people here and the floor sort of controlling the picture a bit. So I put a desaturation layer on and just take a bit of the bite out of it. Puts the emphasis back on the subject. And I think with this picture here, I added a bit of saturation to the subject. So I lifted the saturation on the subject and lowered the saturation on the background to bring the viewer's eye to the subject. I think we're talking to Mark Payne on Thursday, and he said he cannot do anything to an image apart from crop. So no cloning or cutting and pasting, Graham. That's a private joke between Graham himself and Mark Payne. But you can, of course, desaturate. I don't think that upsets any rules. And you can see it makes quite a difference. I would also use this sometimes on skies. If the blue of the sky is too strong and distracting from the subject, I'll just desaturate it a little bit. And as you can see on here, I've used a mask to just do the background. I think the next one on the list was in-camera black and white. I never use this. I sometimes have the camera on black and white just to give me an idea of what the image might look like in black and white. But if you take the image from the camera, first of all, it's only going to be JPEG. The raw file will still be in color. But you're letting the camera decide what the shades of grey are. So you're handing over responsibility for the picture to the camera. And I'm never sure that's a good idea. But as I say, if you have the monitor on black and white, you will get a JPEG in black and white, and it might be useful to see on the monitor what your eventual picture might look like. And the next one was Photoshop RAW converter. Let's see if I can find a picture. There we go. Let's get back. Let's get Holly back to a color image, and I'll go back to the RAW. What I should have done. Come on, come on. I've got a lot open on here, so it tends to slow things down a little bit. There we go. Let me follow my notes. I don't use this either, but I checked that. So you do have an option to convert this to monochrome. There we go. And there's a fair bit you can do, to be honest. There's a fair few tools on here and some presets. So there's a fair few presets you can look through and give you some ideas or starting points. But again, there's very little control. Once you have this image, then you have to do all the work afterwards. And now you're working on a black and white image rather than a colour. So you're losing the ability to change the shades how you'd like to. So,
Dave, you can change them in the black and white mixer tab further down.
yes, there's all sorts of things you can do. But doing this as a raw file, I don't believe gives you a great deal of control. So it's there if you have no other option. But I can't believe that if you have Photoshop or Lightroom, or the other one was Affinity, was it, or whichever one, I'm sure there are better tools than doing it in the raw file. But as I say, the presets are there, there are tools available, and if you fancy having a go, I suggest you sort of do the research on this particular method. There's a certain number of brushes you can use here, lots of tools for brushes that you can bring into it. See if I can get this a bit larger. So, Holly up. So you can sort of take the brush and lift the exposure, shall we say, on the dress, paint that in. Oh, there is a reasonable amount of control. Do a few things like that, and just clicking on a new brush, and then make the changes. But it's a bit of a blunt instrument for me. This. Every time you do it, click a new brush on the little icon there, change the settings to what you want. I've stopped that down there like that. So it can be fun. Brighten up your pot. There you go. So there's a reasonable amount of things you can do, but I don't think it doesn't give you a great deal of control. That's the problem. Once you've done it, there's no going back. And as you'll see when I do a few of the pictures later, when I show you all the process I go through, then I'm constantly going backwards and forwards. So the next one I think on the list was Channel Mixer. Channel Mixer was originally, I think, the only way, when Photoshop was first developed, was the only way to get a good black and white image. And it's still good, but it's sort of been superseded by the black and white adjustment layer now. But Channel Mixer is pretty good, has lots of control. On a layer again. Down here, I always use adjustment layers. I never work directly on the image. Channel Mixer, there it is. And then you click the monochrome button, and you have a monochrome image. So the sliders usually add up to about 100%, as you can see there. And it's generally recommended that whatever you do with these sliders, you try to keep it around 100%. But it seems a bit fiddly, personally, but there you go. You can do all sorts of things with it. One of the things you can do as many of these channel mixes as you like in a row, so you can do another one and stack them up and work on different, because you have a mask here, so you can mask off the bits that you want just this layer to affect. So you can do another one. You can improve the situation, or give yourself even more control by adding a hue saturation layer underneath. This gives you an opportunity then, using the hue, to change the base colour that you started with, which will affect the way the image goes. So if you do this with each channel mixer layer, you can get a great deal of control, but you'd have to use masks in the process to make it work. So if you like that shade on the dress, then you'd need to mask everything else out, which you can do. Fill, black, and then paint it back in with a white brush. There you go. So it does give you a great deal of control, because you can get a lot of different shades of grey. You can improve the contrast and do all sorts of things with it. But as I say, it's sort of been superseded a little bit by the black and white adjustment layer. I'm just making sure I missed anything on this. Yeah, okay. So I think if we move on to the black and white adjustment layer, which I think personally is a much better method of doing the same sort of thing, to be fair. So take an adjustment layer, and it gives you what it thinks is a good starting point. Okay, that's what it believes to be a good starting point for this image. However, if you click the auto button, it will do its best to maximize the shades of grey. Okay, it'll put as many shades of grey in there as it can get. I think that's a better starting point. Okay, so what it will do, these sliders only brighten or darken the colours. That's all they do. Okay, so you're losing a fair bit. It's not as useful as some other tools, but you can brighten the reds and the greens or whatever colour. So there's a fair bit of control. Again, if you stick a hue saturation layer underneath, it gives you more control, gives you more opportunity to change the base colour so you can get the shade of grey that you want. Okay, so you can do lots of effects. You can put lots of layers on and change it around a fair bit. I've got another little tool here to give you an idea of what it's doing. If I can find it in the colour spec. Here's one I made earlier. And if I put the black and white layer on this, okay, now you get an idea of what it's doing. Look, brighten and darken the colours. Okay, and that's all it's doing is brightening and darkening. But it's a reasonable amount of control. Have I got a green on there? So you can change your colours around a fair bit. And with the hue saturation layer underneath, again, you can change those colours around. So there they go. To help control the shades of grey that you end up with. So where was I? There's my lady in ring. There she is. So yeah, that's a reasonable way to go, and I like that one. When you click that auto button and get all the shades of grey, I think that's a pretty good starting point. I don't mess around usually, and I'll show you what I do myself later. But I tend to, if I'm going to use this, I'll just go with the auto button and move it on from there. And it gives you the opportunity, I think, somewhere to save a lot of the. If you have a favourite setup, you can save that as well. So I'm reading notes on here. So ask any questions if you want to. So I would tend to, once I've done this, move on and use curves and various other tools to improve the image, because that's pretty flat. But that's how I like to start, is a flat image. And you get all the greys there. You can decide which ones you want to keep, which ones you want to chuck out, and which ones you want to change slightly. So that's a good starting point. Sorry, I'm trying to go back to it. You're very quiet. Everybody, have you dropped off yet, Pip? There is something else you can do with this that I found sort of interesting. You can use it on a color image, black and white layer on a color image. I'm trying to remember how to do this. If you put a black and white layer on and change the blending mode to luminosity, you get a color image back. But it does allow you to change the density of some of the colors. So if you use this little, it's called a scrubber button, and put it on the color you want to work on and scroll it along, change the color. It changes all color, all areas of that color in image. So if I zoom in a little bit, you'll see that Holly's lips are also changing as I do the dress.
Show us that again, David, please.
Yeah, okay. I'll start from scratch. Get rid of that. So we have a color image. If you put a black and white adjustment layer in, okay, turns it to monochrome. But if you change the blending mode here to luminosity, you get your color image back, and it allows you then to play around with the brightness of the colors. So this little button here is called a scrubber button. And if you touch the color, click on the color you want to change, and then drag from left to right or right to left, it brightens or darkens that color in the image. But if you look at Holly's lips, they've also darkened because they're red. And I think probably it's one of the easiest ways to perhaps darken eyes and lips on an image, on a colour image. So if you wanted a stronger red lips, that's probably one of the easiest ways to do it. It's also one way of getting rid of some troublesome colours cast that you might have in the image. If you click on it, it'll work out what the colour is by you clicking on it, and then you can shift left and right to see if it is helping you out or not. So you can do it on the greens. It lightens all the greens, so the trees are going as well. But one of the quirks that I sort of found while I was doing a bit of research for this talk, so I know it's about monochrome, but when you find something like that, it's worth sharing, I think. So that's the black and white adjustment layer, which I think is pretty good. It comes with Photoshop, so it's worth exploring. I think the next one on the list was Topaz, I think. See if I can find Topaz. don't know how many people use this because it's one you have to purchase. But it is pretty good. The drawback to Topaz filters for me is they're slow. This will open eventually, he says confidently, but they take a while. I did click on it, didn't I? There we go. So I have Topaz filters and I do use them, but I do find them quite slow. And I don't use the black and white one very often. So, but it is good. Gives you a nice range of tones. I'm going to have to move you lot out of the way of the screen so I can get at the tools. There we go. There's lots of choice. You have a great range of presets. Classic is the base one, but all sorts of presets available is a good start. And you can play around with this high key, all sorts of things. I tend to stay with the classic because it gives me a good range of grey tones, if I ever use it, which is very rare. And there's lots of stuff over here. We could spend all night just talking about Topaz as a tool. But it wouldn't be me teaching you because I never use the thing, but it is good. So if you have it, it's worth working to sort it out and learn about it. And Topaz as a company do lots of really good videos, training videos. So that's always a good place to start. So, but you do have lots of control. All the basic exposure methods, contrast, brightness, what you'd expect to find.
Dave, just saying, I'm not sure whether the page updated because we still see Photoshop.
Oh, okay. What do I do?
Sometimes Zoom can be iffy like that. You could stop sharing screen and then share it again, and then it should update.
Okay. Stop.
I think sometimes when you switch applications, it just doesn't get it.
Yeah, maybe. Right. You should have.
Yep.
The poly in black and white, and Topaz tools down the left and the right hand side.
Yes, got that now.
Got that? Okay, here you go. So I've got to start again. These are all presets, lots of them, and you should get a little preview there, what's happening, what you're going to get if you switch it on. So that's pretty good. But the classic one will give you a nice range of grey tones to start with. Quite a flat image, but that's not a bad thing. And we have over here lots and lots of tools you can play with. Obviously, the usual things like brightness and contrast. Boost blacks, boost whites, no idea. I guess that's fairly obvious what they do, I guess. It will act, it's just slow. There we go. By the way, we're darkening those trees over there. There we go. Okay. Just slow to react, I'm afraid. But lots of tools down here. I think some of the creative effects are useful. Things like diffusion, to soften an image can be very useful on portraits and things. No, there you go. Oh yeah, that's really soft, isn't it? Turn that off. Okay. I have no idea what camera shake would do. I don't know if it solves it or not. Finishing touches is pretty useful. You've got the vignette tool, so you can darken the edges in, and some interesting borders that they have available. So you can play around with these. Film grain. One or two tools have film grain you can drop in. And the tone ones can be useful. Lots to play with there. I've never done a quad tone. I've done one or two straightforward toning one, duotone. And you've got all the options there to play with. Paper hue, silver hue. So if I remember rightly, silver affects the highlights, I think. I need Bob Dallow with me now. And the paper affects the shadow area. Is that right, Roger? Can you remember? Yeah, there we go. So you can put some nice tones on it, but how often you use them, I don't know. But they're there. So Topaz is pretty useful tool. Works well. Lots of options.
How much it costs that plugin, Dave?
Want to write that down for me, Arne?
No, I was asking how much is that plugin in terms of cost?
I don't know. My plugin I bought ages ago, ages and ages. So I can't remember, but they're not cheap generally. Topaz, they're about £50-ish usually. So it's a if you want Topaz and you haven't got it, then it's an investment. And I think there are probably how much better it is over a black and white adjustment layer. I don't know. So the next one I'll show you is free. So let me get out of this. Turn your mic off. I think that's the one I wanted. Oh, thank you, Dan. The one I use mostly is Silver FX Pro, part of the Nick collection. And you see Nick do quite a chunk of various ones. And this one I like. It'll open in a minute. It opens a bit quicker than Topaz. And you can do lots of things with this too. When we get there. Okay, I'll put the, I don't use the presets, I'll turn them off, so I'll put the presets back. So again, you've got lots of presets. This is the standard one, which you can go underexposure, overexposure. And I know some people do 3 conversions and mix them with masks, so that's one option. I don't. I've got lots and lots of control, the usual global adjustments, etc. here. I do have the shadow and highlight protection ones, which can be really useful, these two here. But most of the strength of this particular software is in these control points. If I can deke out of this for a second, so I can go back to my color square thing, and I'll show you that this is probably easier to show you how the control points work. Sorry, you have to wait for it to open again. Okay. The control points pick up on a color and allow you to, like we did on the black and white adjustment layer, on the color image. So if we pop a point, lost my mouse. So I clicked on the control point here, and then I click onto a color on the image. Say there. And you get all these options. The first one is the area that you want to affect. So that's got it. And that allows you to brighten or darken that color. Okay. It also gives you the option to add some contrast. Can't really see contrast on here. Some structure and various others. Amplify whites, amplify blacks, fine structure, and selected color. Not really what we're in about tonight, but so if you want to bring the color back on an image, you can do that with this bit. There you go. Okay. So you can have as many as these as you like. So we'll put one on the blue and affect just the blue. So there's my circle down a bit, and we can brighten the blue. And you can see it's affecting a little bit of the grey too. I do that. Click over here, get rid of that. You can see it's affected the grey. to get rid of, if it's affected another colour because it has a similar one in, so grey has got some blue in it, to get rid of it, you just click on another control point and drop it on the affected bit and it takes it out. So it takes a bit of getting used to. Over here, it shows the control points. You can click on them and you can see your settings. If you click on this button here, it shows you what's affected. As you can see with the green, it really has just captured the green. And I think if we go to the blue one, you can see it's affected more than the blue. See? Because the grey has got some blue in it, it's not so effective. So it depends what colours you have around it, but it can be pretty useful. And I'll convert an image later using it. You can, there's lots of control points, and you'll get an idea of what you can do. So they are useful. The control points are very useful.
Is that part of where is that? I don't understand where you have this control panel.
Up here. Can you see my cursor? The purple cursor?
Yeah,
Okay, this little button here, control points.
yeah.
Click on it, and then next where you click, we'll put a control point down. If I can find the thing.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Red.
Thank you.
Then you can adjust just the red or the bit that it's working on. See? Okay. This is another software that we could spend all night talking about, but there's lots of videos on YouTube on how to use Silver FX Pro. I like this one. I think it's pretty good. Let me get out of this and get back to an image, and we can talk about some of the other things on it. There we go, back to Holly. You'll be sick of Holly by the end of the night. So back into Nick Collection, Silver FX Pro.
While this is loading, there was a message from Paul Hassel. This was when we heard the radio noise.
Yeah.
Anyone who wants to buy a Topaz, Paul has a 15% discount code.
Okay.
Hassel 15. I just dropped it in the chat.
That's useful. Thank you, Paul. Okay, so back to Silver FX Pro. As I said with the control points, lots of things you can do. And you can keep the control quite tight. Darken Holly's dress a bit there. Put one on the green. Oops, lost my circle of confusion. Bit behind it. And you can copy them to the other side, so we could do the path. So that's a different colour underneath. And if you think that has affected another colour, as I say, just drop a point on. There you go. Like that one, take that one off. Bin that one. It also has one of the most useful parts on this for me is down here. On the histogram bit, we have a set of tones. So if you click on the 0, it will show you which areas are totally black. You see there? And to get rid of them, you can drop a control point on and just brighten them. If I can grab it. Okay. So you can see where you've got, if you click on the 0, you can see where you've got black and drop a control point on and brighten it to get rid of it, assuming you want to. On the other hand, you can click and see where you have some burnt out highlights. You have no detail at all. But there's none of that on here. So, but you do the same thing, drop a control point on and darken it. Okay, so that's useful to keep checking. So as you add contrast and brighten things and darken things, it's useful to keep clicking back to this down here. And you can leave these switched on as they are now. And if you get the hash come up, See, we've still got some dead black there, which we get rid of with the control point. Drop it on, brighten it, and it goes away. You have to be very careful with this. But there you go. You get the idea. It's very, very a good piece of software, and it's still available free, and I'll give you the link in a minute. So some other areas on here, burn the edges in. I don't use these very much. I tend to do these in Photoshop, vignetting things, but the toning one is quite good. These tend to be quite gentle compared to some others I've seen. So you can add some, I quite like the coffee one. It warms it up a little bit. But this sepia ones, thing to do with these, if you add them, is add them as a separate silver FX conversion. So do your black and white, and then if you want to add some toning, add another layer of Nik filter, and then you can change the opacity. So if it's too strong process, you find that too strong, then you can tone it down a bit. But if you do it at this stage, you're sort of stuck with it. So I would sort of do your black and white conversion, change the things you want to change, make sure you've got all your control in. But there's lots of things you can do on this, lots and lots of things. Just like the Topaz one, they're very controllable, which is useful.
Can I ask you, when you have used Silver FX and you've done everything you want to, how do you get it back in Photoshop?
Just click OK.
Is that all?
Yes.
Thank you.
Photoshop. If you see if I can find it, filters. It's about £130 for the set if you buy them from DxO. They were free on Google, but if you dig deep into DxO's website, they're still offering the free version. There's the link if anybody wants it. I guess we could get John to put it on the website, on Smethwick's website, or get Sandra to put it out for you to get it. But it's the free version is there if you want it. The drawback to the free version is it's not being updated. So if Photoshop moves on, it may not work. And I had to buy a set because it wouldn't work on my version of Photoshop, the latest one on CC. I couldn't get it to work anymore, so I had to go buy a set. And there, but you can try if you want to. There's the link. Get yourself a free set because you get the whole set, and the whole set's good. I get down here and show you get all sorts of things. There's the set, and they can be very good. I think the only one you don't get, this is the purchase version. In the free set, you don't get the perspective FX. I haven't used it yet, but it's there. But you get the rest. So if you can get it for free, you may as well have it, and it moves into Photoshop as a plugin. So for Direct, if you open it as a filter here in Photoshop, it comes up, and then when you've done what you're doing, you click OK, it comes on as a layer in Photoshop.
The latest version of Nik filters from DxO is 129 quid. It's just been released and they've had some offers on it. So, but I think that offer's off now. They were giving about a third off.
I bought it for 86, I think, with a 30% discount, which was up to the might be till the end of July. There was an opening discount of 30%, and because I liked the filters and couldn't get mine to work anymore, I bought a set, and I think I got it for about 86. So, but it's relatively expensive. So if you can get the free set to work, go for it. So what else was there?
To be honest, Dave, when you consider what we pay for cameras and lenses, you know, I don't have a problem with that. You know, it's fun to play with, and we spend a huge amount of cameras, lenses, and all the other gizmos. my free version wouldn't work with the current version of CC, and and I just thought, well, actually, it's, you know, I couldn't buy a lens for that price, and I think it's a bargain.
Yeah, they do enhance your pictures, whichever you buy, Topaz or Nick. They are very, very good, and when you get used to using them, so I use both. I have lots of Topaz filters, but I prefer the black and white conversion on Nick. And I use the black and white filter as well now, the adjustment layer. I was just going to move on to say which is the best. I think the four best ones of all the ones we've looked at tonight are the channel mixer, the black and white adjustment layer, Topaz, and Nick filters. The easiest to use are definitely the black and white adjustment layer, Topaz, and Nick. The channel mixer is very, very good, but not the easiest to use. It's just not so intuitive as the others. But it was the first. So people have moved on and taken that technology and made it so much easier to use. So I don't think it matters which of these you use if you use them properly. The black and white adjustment layer is the least helpful, shall we say, because it only brightens and darkens the colours. The other two use a mixture of the hue content and the saturation, so they give you better shades of grey, but you can overcome that a little bit. So there is one more conversion which I'll leave to last, which is the Epson Advanced Black and White, which you do through your printer. And that can be good too, but I'll save that to the end when we look a little bit at printing. So I thought what I'd do is I'll show you some images that I've converted, go through the whole process, try and find some I've worked on. This was a pretty easy conversion. You can see all the layers. This was a quick and dirty job. In saying that, I think this probably took about 20 minutes to convert from colour to black and white to produce this picture. And it's been one of the most successful pictures I've produced. Amazing, simple. So, there we go. This was a Nick. You can see it's a Silver FX flow conversion there. And that's where I started. And if I show you what I did next, I added some contrast. Okay. And the next one, I added some more contrast. I tend to build up the layers to convert the adjustments slowly. So I'll do a very slight contrast and then add another one. I copy it. If you do Control J, I'll do one there for you. Control J, puts the same, copies the same layer, puts it on again. So I can keep doing that until I think I've had too much, and then I can go backwards. But rather than do one big S curve, I'd like to do lots of gentle ones and build them up. But you can see, when I got too much, I just throw them away. So then I darken the image a little bit. Nothing special about that. Then I added this tonal contrast. You see the effect? This is a Nick filter again. I'll show you where it is. Filters, Nick. This is also on Topaz. I can't remember which of the Topaz filters, but this, yes I can. Let me find Topaz. If you have Topaz, it's in adjustments, I think. I don't use this one so often. It's called something different. I think it's called Crisp, and there's various. There's far more options in the Topaz ones for adding this sort of texture to your image. And I think it comes there. Crisp. There you go. That sort of thing. Detail, and you can get the same sort of effect. Okay. On my image, I use the tonal contrast, which is found in the Nick Collection color in the Color FX Pro. I get to have a drink while these things open. This one's View Direct. I've just clicked on it. You'll see what happens when I close it. So it is, it's opened on that one, but it's down here under the T's. RST, where are you? There you go, total contrast. Lots of options, but that one just adds a bit of grittiness. Is it called micro contrast? I'm not sure. It just gives it a bit of bite. So Dorette, if you open a Nik filter in Photoshop, when you click OK,
Yeah.
it comes up. There it is. It comes up in your layers. Okay, so it's still processing.
Yeah.
Put a double one on now. There you go. See? Oh, hang on, still going. It should be double gritty now. Have we stopped? Yeah, there we go. So, see, it's added that layer there. Oh no, it's still going. I've got a smart filter on this, which takes a lot of time, but it doesn't mean I can go backwards. I'll show you in a second when this stops. Doing a lot of work, isn't it? Easy, boy. Come on. And we stopped. Yeah, I've finally got there. See, it's added a layer look to it. Can you see that? Oh, it's still going. Finish. Finish. Wow. Okay. You can see it's added that layer. Tonal contrast CEP4. And that's the one we've just done, just by clicking OK. So let me get rid of that.
Thank you.
Okay. So what did I do next? I sharpened it. There you go. Sharpened it. And then I decided it needed to be a bit brighter. There it is. Finished. That's it. Now down here, you can see this probably looks different to most of you. I added a smart filter. On the base layer, before you add your Topaz or Nik filter, if you convert that layer to a smart filter, I'm not going to do it again because it'll drive it mad, but if you convert it to smart filter, it means you can go backwards. So if I didn't like what I did in Silver FX Pro, yeah, come on, get on with it. It will open it again and I can change all the settings. If you don't do it as a smart filter, you can't go backwards. But it's much slower if you do it as a smart filter. So it's a bit of a trade-off. But it does allow you to reset everything. So there's my original. See the crop that I made? I only used a small part of the image there. If you're wondering why it's at the top of the viewfinder, it's to prevent the verticals converging, or to help anyway. So that's why. But it means all the settings that I had originally, and as you can see, I didn't do anything. I just converted to mono and switched it straight back into Photoshop. But it does allow you to go backwards if you convert to a smart filter. And I also did a smart filter on the Color FX Pro. So if I didn't like it, it was too strong, I can go backwards. But the easiest thing is, and it usually is too strong, is to change the opacity. So I tend to put it on strong and then play around with the opacity. Okay. So I brought the image and that was it. I think that's probably about a 20-minute conversion, that's all. Job done. I've got this weightlifter one. I'll show you this one. I'll go back to the beginning. And I used a lot of control points in Silver FX Pro on this one. A lot more work involved with this picture. We're doing a more easy one. Early night. Okay, that's where I started. All right. So the first thing to do was to get rid of this horrible bit at the top. So a nifty bit of cloning. I also, I think, and I probably did this first, on this layer makes a mask of the figure. Let me just show you the mask. So, mode selection. There it is. And I did that using the Topaz Remask software, which for me I found to be the easiest way to make masks. So I only made one mask for this image, but I wanted to separate or be able to separate the figure from the background because the background's horrible. So there's the mask I made. So that's tucked away ready. So then we get rid of the top, and then I convert it to monochrome using Silver FX Pro. And again, I put a smart filter on this so that I can show you what I did. Okay, so we've got lots of control points on this. And I'll start at the top, is the first one. And it's on this cuff. Okay. There we go. So I darken that cuff just slightly. I thought that was a bit bright. Control point 2 was the other cuff. You can see I darken that a tad too. Alright, just took that out. Control point 3 on the wrist here, and I'm guessing I darken that as well. There we go. Control point 4 is on the weights. This one here. I picked up on that colour and darkened it. There you go. Control point 5 on this highlight area here. So I started at this point. I catch the button. There we go. You've taken that down a notch. And then the next one, presumably, is the one above it. There you go. Got another bright spot here, so I've tried to tone that down a little. There we go. Next one was over here on these weights. See how bright that is? I'm taking all that down with one button. And the last one is number 8. Where's that gone? Anybody see it? Oh, there it is over here. The top of those weights are a bit bright, so just take those down a bit if I can catch it. There you go. And I think I increased the contrast a little bit, you can see there. And I think that's all I did. And that image, I brought that into Photoshop. You can see down here, I haven't anything burnt out or any blocked up shadows. No blocked up shadows, no burnt highlights.
How do you create the smart filter in Silver FX Pro?
You don't. You create it in the base layer. I'll do one for you.
Do you bring it in from the raw?
Yes, I bring it in from raw, and then you can put. I'll put a layer on the top of here and show you. I'll put a consolidated layer on the top. Go on, up there. I'll do it. So, assume that's the layer you've brought in from your raw file, okay? And then you just go to filter, convert to smart filters. That's it. And that allows you to go backwards then. You could
actually do that from the raw file too, can't you? Into Photoshop.
Yes, you can. If you my filters out when I convert to raw, when I click OK, it opens as a smart object, and you can change your raw file converter so that instead of just opening a layer, it opens as a smart object, and that's what you get. But if
that's what I'm doing now, as a matter of fact.
If you forget to do it, you can do it afterwards as a smart filter layer. Let me get rid of that because it'll drive this nuts. So
thank you.
You're welcome. So that's the Silver FX Pro conversion with all those control points, and that's what he brought in for me. So The next thing I did was the levels adjustment, and didn't do very much on that, if anything. Did I do anything? It moved it around a little bit. And then the curves layer to put a contrast. Another curves layer, some more contrast. So one's just a copy of the other, as you can see, copy. So I did one, and then Control J, I did another one. Then this one, I darken the image slightly. Brings a bit of detail into the face. Get rid of that big circle. Now this one, I just darkened the background. You can see the mask. So the mask I made earlier for the figure, I used, well, no, I just painted that one in, didn't I? I didn't use me, not didn't make a nice one. Okay, and then darkened again, just this edge. Darken this edge down, as you can see there from the mask. And I darken the weights then, I think. Yep, darken the weights a bit more. Then I think we darken the chest of the weightlifter. There we go. Darken that down. This is what I want the viewer to look at, the face. Okay, so that always needs to be the sharpest, most contrasty, brightest part of the image. I don't want people looking down here. Do darken the chest again. There we go, a bit more. Took some contrast out of the chest. Yeah, if you the contrasty bits are the bits that your eye will go to. So I don't, that's not where I want the viewer. So take some contrast out. Then I brighten his face. That's it. Just brighten his face. Darkened with a gradient layer, gradient tool, at the bottom, just ever so gently. Again, to bring the viewer's eye into the picture. I darken the right-hand side of the image with a gradient again. Then I finally got rid of those spots that you've been wondering whether I was going to deal with them. There you go. Clone those out. Darken this bottom right-hand corner then, I think. At the mask. There you go. Just darken that a bit. It's a bit stronger now. I then decided it was too noisy, so I added a denoise program. I put some tonal contrast on it to give it a bit of grit, but only on, you can see from the mask, it's only on the lifter, and it doesn't include the weights, just around here. I've just put some tonal contrast on that. Then I sharpened him. Again, just the weightlifter, just the face and the hands. And I did something here. What did I do there? I darkened his chest a bit more. Felt it needed to be darker. There you go. And that was the final image. That's what I settled on. So looks like a lot of work, but probably no more than an hour. But I think the biggest challenge was getting rid of the white line at the top. But because of the colours on the wall behind, it was never going to work as a colour image. So that was that one. What else have I got? I'll show you this one. I like this one. Let me show you from the beginning what we did with this. As you can see, I do most of my work in Photoshop with masks and curves and levels. So I don't mess around too much in the conversion software, like the black and white adjustment layer or Topaz or Nik Silver FX Pro. I tend to just take it straight across with the maximum number of grey shades I can get, and do all the work, make masks and do all the work from there. Now for this one, as you can see, even on a tripod, I don't get it straight. First thing to do for me is to do any cloning white. So I've got rid of these cables here. Okay, so that was the first thing to get rid of. Get rid of them. Then I thought it might look better if it was straight. So there we go. So we straightened it up. As you can see, it's a very flat image. I've got no burnt out highlights and I've got no blocked up shadows. So then I used a black and white adjustment layer in Photoshop. So you don't need a smart filter for this because it's an adjustment layer, you can go backwards. And I got that. And then clicked auto, so that's an auto setting. As you can see, we've got lots of nice shades of grey. A bit flat, but that's fine to start with. When we were down at this point, I made some masks. So I have two, I think, that's all. Let me show you what they are. I wanted one for the model, and there she is, because the model is always going to be the centre of attention in the picture. So I needed to be able to work on the model separately. And I made one for the window. There we go. So because that's brighter and there's a lot going on there, and I knew I would need to be able to work on the window separately. So I do that at the colour stage because it's just easier for software like Topaz Remask to find the edges of it's easier for it to find the edges of a colour image than it is a monochrome image. And I will sometimes, if I'm making a mask, increase the saturation, increase the contrast, and sharpen it before I make the mask, and then discard all those layers before I work on the picture. But to make the mask, I will usually increase the saturation and increase the contrast to make it easier for things like Topaz Remask to find the edges. If the contrast and the saturation are higher, the difference between colours and edges is so much easier for it to find. And I would usually sharpen it as well, so I get a tighter mask. And then throw those layers away before I start working on the picture. So I only do that to make the mask. And then I come back to a flat image. So there's the lovely Tilly. We had fun doing this, didn't we, Roger? We were doing well till the bus came past. So,
Yeah, it was good.
yeah, I think if it could have been a single decker, it would have been all right, but the double decker people looking straight in the window. So black and white adjustment layer. And that's it. Clicked auto, give me all the maximum range of tones, and then I work on it with the masks. First did the levels, and all I did was just tighten this a little bit either end, just to bring in a bit of contrast and tighten the thing up. So, and the curves layer to darken it, very simple. Then I darkened the window. Okay, so I use that mask that you saw earlier. As you hang up, I can click on that and show you. There's the mask. Okay, so I just darkened the window. And it looks like I didn't think that was enough, so I darkened it again. So to copy, so once I've done one, it was just a Control J, and I get a second one, and it darkened it. And then if I thought that was too dark, I could just adjust the curves there. But the mask is all done, so it's easy to do. I did the same thing again, so I'll do a Control J again, and then just change the curve to reduce the contrast. See that? I've just taken some of the hit out of that background, because again, I want the viewer looking at the model, not what's going on outside the window, so take some contrast out of it. Then we brighten Tilly. There she is. We can show you the mask. There you are. You can see how good Topaz gets these masks, and that takes just a few minutes to do. So there's the brighten Tilly a little bit. Then increase the contrast on the whole picture. Brighten the whole picture. Then I darkened the floor. This is a gradient mask on a curves layer. We just darken the floor. I did it again. Make it a bit darker. Starting to funnel the viewer's eyes now towards the model. Darken the left-hand edge. There we go. Darken the right-hand edge. Oh, darken the left-hand edge again. Did it again. Darken the right-hand edge. Darken the right-hand edge again. These masks are not necessarily the same. You see on the right-hand one. This one, the first one I did, turn that off, is a longer, more gentle gradient. And then I wanted to tighten up just this far edge. So the next one is a smaller gradient mask. Then the top, just darken that area there. We're starting to get all the emphasis down here now. Brighten Tilly. There she is. Then this little bit of fabric here is a bit bright, so I darken that. There we go. This wasn't a perfect mask. There you go, just that little bit there. Brighten Tilly again. You can see I do this in bits. I don't do big jumps in brightness or contrast. I tend to do little bits and build it up. What do we do then? Brighten the whole image. Get a bit dark. And then I got rid of these bits. These latches here, poke you in the eye. These are what Pete Gennard would describe as judge bait. So let's get rid of them. So out they go. Then I put some of that tonal contrast on the walls. So we start to get this rough wall, smooth skin thing going on. Seems to work well. And then I just sharpened Tilly. I didn't sharpen the walls, I didn't sharpen the outside, I just sharpened the picture of Tilly. And there she is. There's the mask. And that was it. One of my favourite pictures, then actually. I really like that. I think I like the picture, and the event at which we did it was also fun too. So lots of memories about that. And a lot of people have been there. It's the Pit and Pendulum, is that what it's called? I think, yeah.
Yeah, the Pit and the Pendulum.
Yeah. It was a great day, and I ended up with a picture I really liked. But as you can see from all the layers, it looks like a lot of work. But once you've made the two masks, which are pretty quick to make, then the whole thing comes together really quickly, and it doesn't take long to do. But when I took the picture, I knew what I wanted. I knew I wanted this rough versus smooth picture. So I don't think there's much else. I think that's
Dave, can we ask you a few questions, please?
to what? Sorry.
Yeah, can I ask you a few questions, please?
Yeah, sure. The only thing I was going to cover next was printing. So ask away, Arno.
Yeah, it's about that picture. First, when you took the picture, did you use like a reflector on the model to give a little bit more light on this side of you?
Probably, yeah. I probably would have thrown some light back with a reflector or a small light. I can't honestly remember, but I would normally try to do that under those conditions.
Okay. And you know, you were talking about the mask, you know, to create the mask for the window and for the girl.
Yeah.
And you said you create some layers first, like a contrast and saturation. Is that?
Yes. Do you want me to show you?
But if you got a sec, yes, why not? It could be useful to learn. And how you saved it also.
It's pretty quick. So let me turn all these off.
Thanks, Dave.
So I would do it at this stage before it's a monochrome conversion. I would make the masks on this. Okay. Now, to make the masking software, make it easier for it. I would make it more contrasty. You know, I don't have to be too fussy about this, but put a bit more contrast into it, like that. I would also add some colour, because it finds the colour easier, so just increase the saturation, like that. You can see now how defined the edges become. So that's got to be easy for the software to find, okay? And then I would consolidate those layers. So put a little black empty layer above, and if you click all together, and it's the only way I know to do this, Alt, Control, Shift, and E, it puts a layer of all the consolidated layer of everything underneath onto one. And then that one, I would sharpen. Any way you want to do it. I usually use the thick one because it's a bit more supple. So just click OK and mess around with it. And I've got a high contrast, high saturation, sharpened layer. And that's the one I would use to make the mask. So from there, I would go to Filter, Topaz, and Remask. And then make the masks that I want and save them. I'm going to have to switch this. This will take a while to load, and then I'll switch it off. But I find if you make your masks on a layer like that, high saturation, high contrast, and sharpened, you'll find the mask software like Topaz will find it much easier to work around. So you don't have to be so, oh, bugger off. No, I don't want any updates. So, there's quick and dirty mask. That's never going to work, is it? So we'll switch that off. But you get the idea.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
And then before I move on, I would grab these, okay, and get rid of it, dump them, because I've now got my mask made, ready to go, or two masks, and I'm back to the soft, low contrast, low saturation image to put the black and white layer on. But the masks are now made, so when I add the mask, it's a pretty good one. Okay, it's not so fluffy around the edges, shall we say? Doesn't work every time, but I find if you've got a fairly flat image like this, increasing the contrast and increasing the saturation does make it easier for the masking software to find the edges. And you can see that when you increase the contrast and saturation, you can see how she stands out from the background.
Dave, when you've made the mask in Topaz,
yeah,
do you leave the mask in Topaz or do you import it back into Photoshop?
No, when you click OK, it comes up like this on your image with all the bits around the outside, the blinking bits. That's the mask you've made. When you click OK on Topaz, it drops it in onto the picture that you were working on, and that's exactly what you will see. To save that, let me think. What do you do with this to save this? I've got to get. I'm going to have to do one. I don't think I can do it from that. Let me do a mask for you, and I'll show you. We've got a bit of time, so. Talk amongst yourselves a bit. I think masks are extremely important to learn to use, whatever you do, because it allows you to control individual parts of the picture. And if you get good at it, then you can put pictures together like Pete Gennard and Pete Civita do. And that's all about making really good masks. Did I click the right one? Right way in here. Oh, denoise. Sorry, guys. Let me get rid of that. Go away. Sorry, I clicked the wrong one. Right. Let me do all those things I did before. So we increase the saturation. There we go. Increase the contrast. So you can already see how much easier that's going to be to find the model. And I sharpened, didn't I? So let's put another layer in there. Consolidated layer, so Alt, Shift, Control, and E. So it's got all those, all this combined in this one. Sharpen it. Just wait for that to finish. And I've done all this without the help of alcohol tonight. I hope you're impressed. So, right, filter, topaz, detail, remask, and we'll make ourselves a mask. I'll do it a bit more seriously this time. Come on, come on, come on. There we go. I've got an image open. No, this is not the time. Close that down a bit and increase the size of the figure. So,
Dave, I don't think it's come through. You might have to do like you did earlier. And go out.
Emmy, stop the share.
I can field this one if you want. What you'll have to do is go and share your screen again, but if you share just the screen or the program that you're using, because otherwise it just shares the...
Yeah, I've got it. Have you got it now? You've got a green picture?
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
Green one. Okay. All right. This is the topaz mask. So I'm just going to try and make a mask. Quick and dirty. You'll obviously take more time over it than I do. I've got a very steady hand tonight. Okay, so that's the mask. I hope you would do it a bit more, take a bit more time over it. So we apply that. That should drop on our image as the blinking lines around Tilly. Have I missed something? Oh, sorry, computer mask. Yeah, forgot a process. This is not fast. And we're doing for time. Oh, we're okay. Nearly done. And I'll once we've gone through this bit, I'll cover a bit on printing and then call it tonight. There's the mask. Quick and dirty. It made a great job of it, didn't it? Wow. So when you apply that, it comes up as a separate layer in Photoshop. Oh, hang on. Lost the screen sharing again.
Can you see the zoom? Oh, there you go.
Are you back on with Tilly? Okay, so this is the mask. If I turn everything else off, this is what Topaz has made. Okay, there you go. That's what Topaz has made. Now, to make that a selection, if you click here, I think I've got the right one. Maybe not. I should know this. I'll do it enough. I'm looking for none of the above. Sorry, guys. Lost me train of thought. Improve. Block players. Why am I not seeing what I want? Right click. Oh, so right click on the layer, and you see this select pixels. If you click on that, there's your outline of the image, and then you can save that. So if you go to selection, save selection, and just name it, and there it is. That's all you need to do. Okay, then you can throw this away. We can throw all this away that we used to make the mask. Okay, get rid of all that. And we're back to this. And there's we get rid of that. Then for your mask, if you go to selection, load selection, on the channel, and figure, that's the one we've just made. So there it is. And there you go. So that's how you get it into Photoshop. So when you click on the topaz, it puts it on as a separate layer here. I'll go backwards and show you where it was. He says. So that's what Topaz has produced on this separate layer here. And then all you have to do is right click and select pixels. So to put an outline all around all the pixels in the picture, which is what you want. And then selection, save selection, name it, and OK. And then you can recall it at any time you like. And in this picture, I combined two of the selections to make the picture, because I did the window and Tilly at one point. So I could do those, invert them, and just have the walls. It sounds complicated, doesn't it? So and then once you've done all that major selection, you can get rid of the hue and saturation layer we put on to increase the saturation, the curves layer we put on to increase the contrast, and the sharpen layer that we put in. Get rid of all those and get back to the image you want to work on. But you now have a mask. Okay?
Thanks for that, Dave.
Everybody happy?
Thank you.
Right, printing. There's another black and white option, and I'm not sure it's on other printers yet, but on the Epson printers, I can do it from there. There's an option for a black and white adjustment layer. And I'm not going to print one, but I'll show you. I don't know if anybody's ever used this. Go away. Okay, so let's find the printer. I'm on an Epson P800. Now, printer manages colours, so that's what we want. In the print selection settings, there's an option here for advanced black and white. And you can click advanced, and you get this. Now, there's a few things I don't like about this. The first thing I don't like is the image that you're looking at to show you what yours is going to look like is not your picture. So you can't see how it's affecting your image. You can only see how it's affecting an image that Epson want to show you. It also opens and starts on darker. Why wouldn't it start on normal, which is brighter? It starts on darker, and I've never been able to work out why they would do that. Anyway, you have this Epson wheel here where you can change the tone of an image. So if you want to put sepia in it, you can do that, but it's a bit of a quick and dirty thing. And I think there are better ways to do it than that, but it does produce really good images. And as far as I know, it's Bob Moore's favourite, and we know Bob can print. Bob likes this, and I believe Louise uses it as well. I can't get on with it, but if you persevere with it, and you do need to do a lot of tests, and you find a set of settings that work for a particular paper, it can give you very, very good results. But you have to do a lot of trial and error. But it is there if you want to give it a go, and you remember the settings, and you work on it, do for each paper that you use. It can be very good. Personally, I stick with a profile. So I have all my papers profiled. As you can see, here they are. Let's do gold silk. And it sets the profile in for me. It puts all the settings in that I use to do gold silk, and all I have to change is the paper size. There you go, okay with that. And then here, when it finishes doing what it does, Photoshop manages colours. I've changed that to Photoshop manages colours. Make sure I'm on the right printer, and put in. I do some training for Permajet, so you can see how many printers I've used. Where's mine? Okay, these are my personal ones here. On gold silk, put the profile in for gold silk. So I print it as a colour picture. I use a colour profile. And if your monitor's profiled properly and you have your paper profiled to match your printer and computer, it should work perfectly. And for me, I'm happy, very happy with the results I get using that colour profile. I don't know anybody else that uses the black and white advanced system. I know Bob does, and I think Louise does. But for me, I use a colour profile to do it.
We print all ours using the advanced black and white.
You do as well, Rog?
Yes, but I put the colour profile in as well, and I think it gives it the edge.
Oh, right. You're not supposed to. It's one or the other.
It doesn't make a lot of difference, but I certainly, and I think Bob Dallow prints his with the advanced black and white.
If you put the colour profile in, you're printing with the colour profile, not the advanced black and white.
Yeah. But I mean, I've certainly always used advanced black and white.
As soon as you click this bit here, Rog, Photoshop these colours, the printer is having nothing to do with it. So whatever you did in the advanced black and white has been wiped out, because this is overriding it. The only way you can print an advanced black and white is to have it set on printer manages colours. So as soon as you do that and put a profile in, you're working with the profile.
So at any rate, so it probably means I'm profile right, because I can't see any difference, which either way I do.
With your profile. So, but I know that, I say Bob Moore does it, or he did, but I can't get on with it personally. I prefer to use this Photoshop manages colours and put the profile into the paper. So the only other thing left is paper choice, if you're going to print it, and that's personal. So anything I can add to that? Look at the timing. I'm almost on a normal hour and a half.
Just a quickie, Dave.
Yeah.
Do you use the standard ICC profiles, or do you get Epson to profile the paper for you?
Permajet profile for me, because it's Permajet paper. It's not. If I had Epson paper, I would use Epson profiles, but the profile is for the paper, not the printer. So
I meant, do you get Permajet to give you a profile, or do you use the standard paper ICC profiles?
No, I don't use the standard. I have them make a profile for me. It's a free service, so you may as well use it. So I can close this down then. Is that okay with everybody?
In terms of printing, that is one thing. In terms of digital competition, do you do something extra to?
When I print?
No, you know, when we do a PDI competition, do you do anything special in terms of black and white? You know, like adding some more brightness or whatever it is?
No, I think that I go with this, when it's finished, I like it on screen. And if I like it on screen, that's what I'll print. So if I send to a competition, if I send a PDI, a black and white PDI to a competition, it's exactly the same as the one I would print, apart from maybe sizing to suit.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Before everybody starts disappearing, don't forget to put this into practice, and let's have some black and white pictures put into the competition. Last time I looked this morning, not one single novice had entered. Now that's a bit bad, so let's get cracking.
And now we're going to be professional with the advice from tonight.
Yeah. When are they going to be in by, Roger?
Sunday night, the latest.
Sunday night. Okay. Can I add something? Can I just say something? Yeah. Right. Dave, I thought that was superb. Your Topaz Remask, I've never used it. I want to buy it. It looks absolutely superb. It really does. It's fantastic.
It's very quick, isn't it?
It's so effective.
Not making mask when it's that quick.
I love watching your technique. I thought your technique was brilliant. The only thing I'll add, because I'm a bit miserable, I bought Silver FX before it came Silver FX Pro 2. So I bought the original one at a camera show. And it worked. They've updated it for me. So I've got Silver FX Pro 2. And when CC came out, it stopped working, as a lot of people have found. And I think if you buy if you get the free version, if you work in CC, it doesn't work. So there is a fix. If you open Silver FX Pro, open a picture up in it. In the bottom left-hand corner, I think it is, there's a settings button. Click on the settings and turn off open in a new layer. It works.
Oh, right.
But you have to, it doesn't open a new layer then. It does the conversion in the layer you're in. So what you have to do then is, before you open it, create a copy layer.
Yeah, consolidated layer. Yeah.
Consolidate, and I create a copy in case it doesn't work and I want to get rid of it. So create a copy, then I go into Pro, and then it opens it in that layer. If you don't do that, the whole Photoshop crashes, you lose everything.
Right.
So it does work, but you have to turn that off.
Well, that's useful. If anybody wants the link for the free sets, it's available. So I can either get John to put it on the website, or you can drop me an email and I'll give you the link.
But superb. That was a fantastic evening. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you very much, David, for your comprehensive analysis of the conversions. And there's a lot of information there, but I understand it's been recorded, so we've got the opportunity of looking at it again.
Good help.
So well done. Thanks very, very much.
You're welcome.
We're on Tuesday next week with the technique, because it's somebody we booked from outside, a paid talk on textures. So that should be very interesting as well. Then I think there's a couple of weeks after that, isn't there, Judith, before we have another one. We'll start going through the members that have volunteered. With this textured talk, we booked from a lady that's actually giving a lecture on a Thursday night later in the programme.
And will that be recorded as well?
We have to ask. You can't just record other people's stuff.
Okay.
You can play one back in slow motion.
Hey, Dave.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of a set of filters called PhotoKit?
I have. I don't own them, but I have heard of them.
Well, they've gone out of business now. They've given up. But you can. They used to cost as much as Topaz, etc., and Nik filters. But they've left a legacy version up. Oh. And I've recently installed CC on my new machine, and it works in there, and it's a superb set of filters.
Yeah, we've got that because you told us, Gary, about them originally.
Yeah.
And they've continued to work in all the versions of Photoshop. and to do like those gradation, you know, burning in or lightning areas.
Yeah, it's really easy to use.
Ever so simple. Ever so
Yeah.
simple.
Yeah.
Can you share the link, Rog?
Yeah, I think we'll look for the link, or Gary might have the link. But
What's the link here? Can I share my screen?
Yeah.
Yes. You know how?
Oh, what's happening now? Oh shit. Oh.
Yeah, you're doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got you.
Screen.
Yep.
All right. Okay. If you just put PhotoKit plugin into Google, yeah.
Yep.
And you got this company here, Pixel Genius.
Yep.
And then it takes you to this link here, and this is just explaining that they've gone out of business, but you're quite welcome to use them, and you can download whichever bundle you want, 64-bit, 32-bit, or if you've got a Mac, and it's completely free. In fact, I can give you a little demo, I think. Open in Photoshop, got an image open. I can go to File, Automate, PhotoKit, and you've got all these different, you've got colours of black and white toning, colour corrections, tone corrections, contrast corrections, burn area, dodge area, detail and photo effect, edge effects. Look at your burn area. Then on this field, you can burn 4 corners, bottom, right, whatever. So on this image here, if I wanted to burn, let's say, the bottom half, I can see bottom half, say OK. And it's burnt it, and it's put it on a layer, and it puts it in at 40% opacity originally, but you can increase that, of course. So you've got full control. And the thing is that when you're using this, you don't have to flatten the image or merge it before you do another control. So, for instance, if I went back in again and said Automate, PhotoKit, and this time I selected left half, okay, you'll see that's created a separate layer. And again, I can adjust it. So that's the burn that it's done. But the good thing about it, of course, because it's on a layer, you can also erase any bits that you don't want, which is a good way of balancing images up. But one interesting thing about it, Automate PhotoKit 2, you go to, I think it's tone corrections, yeah. So here, we can punch the blacks, for instance. So it's just punching blacks. That comes in at 100%, but you can see the difference it makes. Can you see that?
Yeah.
On, off, on, off. And you can do the same with PhotoKit 2. If I go back to burn area, no, sorry, not burn. Tone corrections. I can punch the white, or I can dodge the highlight, or I can burn highlights. So again, and that goes in at 100%, but if it's not enough, you can apply it again. So again, it's just affecting the whites on, off, on. So, and that's completely free. And it used to cost as much as Topaz. So if you just go to that site there, Pixel Genius, and it does work in the new CC. I was demonstrating it there in CS6, I think. But so there you go.
Very good.
Can you still use them, Roger?
Yes, I still use them. I used it the other day on one. Judith says it doesn't work on her computer, but I'll have to have a look and see why not. But I mean, I've still got got it in the download folder, so I can just copy it and put it in. But it's quite useful sometimes, and you just want to quickly do a bit of burning.
Yeah, it's not as sophisticated as the things that Dave's shown us tonight, of course, Topaz and the NIC filters. But like you say, for quick adjustments, it's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
Have a look
So
at
there
that.
you go.
It's worth having for nothing. Let's put it like that.
Well, exactly. Exactly.
Paul's asked me to remind you that there's a 15% code for Topaz.
Topaz.
Yeah,
For all of them.
for all of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The code's Hassel15.
The new Topaz, the new ones, the later ones are really good, aren't they, Dave?
Yes, yeah, that was
The D ones or whatever they are, the sharpening, the denoise and mask. They're really good. You can buy either the whole set or you can buy each individual one.
Yeah, the denoise one's very good.
Yeah.
Could you repeat the code?
Yes, it's Hassel15. How do you spell it?
You can check in the chat. You put it earlier, the code.
Yes.
Thank you.
I think it is in the chat somewhere.
HASS.
Yeah. HASSELL 15. You get 15% discount of all items.
Thank you very much.
No.
Thank you very much, Dave. Well, that was great.
Yes, very good, Dave.
Yeah, thanks, Dave.
You're very welcome.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
We'll see you all on Thursday, no doubt. Sounds good as well. Thursday does. So,
yeah.
Yeah, I just tried mask, Dave. I'd got Topaz mask and I'd never used it.
well, you know how to now.
No, I've just done it.
Wow.
Had a quick go.
Yeah, no, it worked.
It's very good.
Does Paul do demonstrations, Roger, on the Topaz? He's still on here, Paul.
No, I think he's gone. Oh no, he isn't. He's still there. He's muted though.